The late 1980s and early 1990s is a very special and unique period for special effects in film. There were many methods, such as the use of photochemical optical visual effects, stop-motion animation, miniatures, matte paintings, puppetry and makeup effects that were pushed to their absolute limits. The result is some truly awe-inspiring movie magic achieved through the painstaking efforts of some incredibly talented artists. However, during this time, there was a new method of visual effects work that was beginning to capture the imaginations of filmmakers and audiences: computer-generated images. It was new, it was exciting, but hardly fine-tuned and not quite at the point of being the industry standard that it is today. Its earlier uses were more abstract effects that just couldn't quite be achieved with any other way. A stained glass window coming to life in young Sherlock Holmes. The shape-shifting pseudopod in James Cameron's The Abyss. The shape-shifting T-1000 in James Cameron's Terminator 2. But it wouldn't be until 1993, with the release of Jurassic Park, that we would see the first fully rendered, physically textured, photorealistic CGI creatures appear on screen. Steven Spielberg's dinosaur epic signaled the revolution of the digital age. There was no going back at that point. Filmmakers had to keep up with the new technology, or stay in the Stone Age. What makes Alien 3 so fascinating from a special effects standpoint is that it was made right on the cusp of this digital age. Many of the older SFX methods were used with great results. Entirely new technology had to be invented to acclimate to these methods. Alien 3 happens to contain some of the most complex visual effects ever created in this pre-CGI era. So much so that you could probably forgive any average viewer watching Alien 3 in a post-Jurassic Park era that may mistake the alien effects we see here for early CGI effects. The film does contain some CGI, but not nearly as much as some may think. The process of getting Alien 3's special effects to the screen is explained very nicely in the 2003 documentary Wreckage and Rage: The Making of Alien 3. Using new and archival interviews with visual effects producer Richard Edlund, alien effects creator Tom Woodruff Jr., and model shop supervisor Richard Jones, the grand task is described from its inception to the complex efforts made to get these effects to work. The challenges began in determining just how exactly director David Fincher's vision of the alien would be brought to life. Fincher made it clear he wanted to present the creature in a way audiences had never seen before, to display its full body in scenes of crawling on the ceiling, ferociously running through corridors, and attacking its victims with a unique speed and agility. A freight train meets a jaguar, is how Fincher described this vision. Very early on, it was decided that older methods such as stop-motion animation simply wouldn't work. Visual effects producer Richard Edlund explains, "That was one of the challenges of the production. That is, to come up with a technique of shooting the alien. How would we shoot the alien? How would we create the alien in this movie? No one ever had seen the alien running in the way that it was running. He runs on the ceiling and on the side and all over the place. We had to develop a look. How does an alien look when it runs? Stop motion is too jerky. It's out of date. You can't have a character running in a scene without the natural motion blur you'd expect to see, so that was not a useful approach at all. Fincher wasn't going to buy locked-off shots, not in these kind of ferocious scenes. So we designed a system that we could pan, tilt, dolly, boom, all these things. Using this newly designed system, the approach was to integrate puppetry into the special optical visual effects. These would enter into a marriage with the tried-and-true use of suit work that had worked so effectively and sparingly in the previous movies. Alien effects creator Tom Woodruff Jr. had to consider where the limitations would lie. In a 1992 interview, he had the following to say, "From a practical standpoint, the idea of putting a man in a rubber suit works because you get the coverage you need, and you have something to work with on set, and the actors have something to work with. A lot of this movie is going to be a third-scale puppet. It's got things to it that you just can't do with a man in a suit. It's going to be a rod puppet that's composited through a blue screen, so we'll have more control over the movement, and we'll be able to go in and remove control rods frame by frame, rotoscoping things out." While stop-motion was out and puppetry was in, the team employed some stop-motion filming techniques to create the appropriate illusion, and assemble some very talented puppeteers to get the job done. Model shop supervisor David Jones recalls this process. "I'd worked before with a guy back on the first Star Wars, Lane Liska. He was very good at stop-motion animation. We wanted to take the idea of that and use that with the rod puppeteering, but be shooting it with the motion control cameras. We shot live-action footage in the tunnels and in all sets back in England with what we call the field record dolly that Boss Film had made. And this was a dolly that was built so that the camera could be on it and moved by first unit people. And the wheels and control arms for panning and tilting and booming and tracking in and out were familiar to regular live-action cameramen. But while this was happening, we had recorders on all the wheels and all the different axes that would be able to record all these axes, and we would bring them back to Boss Film. Richard Edlund explains the process at Boss Film. We would put that same motion file back into our motion camera here, which would be modified to take in the scale changes so the dynamic distances would be scaled down to, say, 1/3 their actual motion. The track length would be 1/3 as long. The boom height would be 1/3 as high. Except all the angles on the pan and tilt remain the same. So you take all that information, and then you shoot the alien with that same program. Then you can put the alien as a separately photographed creature into another scene. We had to retroactively figure out how much the alien would have moved on the set, on the full-size set, then scale that down. So I had to go from figuring out what lens they had used and knowing what the field of view and height and width of that lens was, figure out where they were on the set so that we could start some of these setups and know how far to move the puppet through this thing. There were things like that that weren't documented like they might have been because nobody had ever done this before. We also developed a Laserdisc composite system so that we could take the material that was shot at 1 frame a second, or 48 frames a second, and reconfigure that to 24 frames a second so that we could then put it with the background and see immediately after we shot a take on the stage. We could then composite in video with the background to see if it works. So this was all equipment that had to be designed, built, and foolproof, and perfect, because the responsibility was on us. It was tough. It was a really powerful tool. Nobody's ever been able to do it with such facility without this equipment.
Today's studio wizards can accommodate any writer's imagination or director's desire to furnish that magic. It was another great year for the wizards, and the 3 films nominated for Best Achievement in Visual Effects are Alien 3, in which Richard Edlund, Alec Gillis, Tom Woodruff Jr., and George Gibbs took these great pains to create greater pains for Sigourney Weaver.
For their efforts, the Alien 3 special effects team was nominated for an Academy Award the following year. While the film didn't win in its category, Tom Woodruff Jr. at least didn't walk away empty-handed, having also been nominated and winning for his work on the Robert Zemeckis film Death Becomes Her. One of the great things about the supplemental material on the 2003 DVD set of Alien 3 is not just the making of documentary, but the audio commentary track. Richard Edlund reunites with Tom Woodruff Jr. and Alec Gillis to watch the film and offer their insights. It's a fascinating experience in and of itself to hear their reactions to their work just a little over a decade later at the time of this recording. Many of the shots they're still very proud of.
There's Tom in the suit. There's a beautiful shot where it goes into the doors close behind it. It just is a beautiful fluid move. This
right
one.
Here.
Look at
That's
that.
great.
That's gorgeous. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Other shots, they have their criticisms.
That one's one of the less effective shots.
Also on the track are revelations of the digital composite shots used for the film, such as the EEV crashing through Fury's atmosphere and shots of the debris flying through the harsh winds of the planet. They also reveal the CGI that was used in the film. When the alien jumps out of the boiling lead, it's still the rod puppet, but the globs of lead falling off it are rendered in CGI. Both the commentary track and the documentary talk about other shots of CGI used to enhance the alien effects, including the one and only fully computer-generated image of the alien itself. Richard Edlund. The shadow elements were for the most part CG with some roto help, from simple regular old rotoscope help. The one computer-generated shot is they had to model the head of the alien, which was not that difficult because it was basically like an oblong football shape. And since we were looking at it from the top, because we wanted to see the crack, so they modeled the character and then did a computer-animated crack. And it was on the screen for maybe a second. So that was our first computer-animated and digital composite, so it was all done digitally. So, how much CGI was used for Alien 3? When it comes to the alien itself, literally one shot. One shot that lasts all but a second. Every other effect you see in the film is accomplished through pre-digital methods. at least for the 1992 release. If you happen to be watching the 2003 assembly cut version, there is a little more. In the scene where the young alien, affectionately referred to as the Bambi Burster, births from the ox, puppetry was originally worked with, but the effects were not completed. To finalize the scene in this extended alternate version, the Bambi Burster effects were created using CGI. Unfortunately, not everyone's going to watch these documentaries and commentaries, or even this video, so likely the misconception that the alien in Alien 3 was made using CGI will likely stick around for as long as people keep watching the movie. Oftentimes it's perceived as poor early CGI instead of groundbreaking photochemical work. This begs the question, though, should a film like this stand as a testament to the technology available at the time, or could it benefit from adding new and improved special effects? Personally, I've always been impressed with the effects as they are. I'm sure I've mentioned it on the channel plenty of times before, but Alien 3 was the first Alien movie I ever saw. I watched it as a kid when it came to cable, and I'd never seen anything quite like it before, and surely audiences at the time hadn't either. I was blown away by the alien effects, and I think I'll always at least partially see them through nostalgic lenses, with additional appreciation knowing all the efforts that went into creating them. As a curiosity, though, I would actually like to see how they tinker with new effects using new technology. I'm not adamantly against something like that as long as the original version is always available. It wouldn't be the first time that filmmakers have gone back and integrated new effects into a finished work, and with the 30th anniversary of Alien 3 fast approaching, maybe it's time to deliver a new treat for fans that have enjoyed and gone back to the film over and over after all these years. I would love to see a third, alternate cut, bringing back as much more unused footage as possible and including new CGI effects. The franchise has Disney money now. I say it's time to use it. But that's just me, that's just thinking out loud, I guess. But would you be open to this idea? Let me know in the comments below. As always, I'd like to thank you very much for watching today. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a like, and be sure to subscribe for all latest videos from the channel. A very special thanks goes out to Alyssane and Grizz4756, Queen Tiers of the Patreon Hive. Thank you to John Griggs, the Hive's Praetorian. A very special thanks goes out to Lady Anne in the Ellen Ripley Tier of Excellence, and in the role of WEYLAND YUTANI Executive, NanashiFx. If you'd like to join the Hive and support the channel, check out my Patreon page for exclusive posts and contests. In the meantime, you can catch up with Alien Theory over social media. Follow @alien_theory on Twitter and @alientheoryyt on Facebook and Instagram for more. And until next time, this is Alien Theory, signing off.